This is John SCHABEN from the Dunlap Livestock Auction. It is Monday, April 20th, and just wanted to give a few comments and reflections about the market. I was in a national meeting conference call on Saturday, particularly pertaining to the current markets and relationship, obviously, with everything today in COVID-19. I thought a lot about it over the weekend and tried to do some reading pertaining to this particular subject, and it was pretty easy to call today's post history repeats itself. I found an article from the Huffington Post back in 2010 that was specific to the breakup of the big packers there, and basically in 1920. And this was a person's opinion, and I was just going to read a few quotes from their article. President Wilson's 1919 Federal Trade Commission report was anything but tepid, finding, among other things, that the power of the big five meat packers was used to illegally manipulate markets, restrict supplies of food, control the price of food, and defraud farmers and consumers. In addition, neither did the FTC investigations limit their concerns to the effects on American consumers of meat. Chief among the alarms they raised nearly a century ago were that of the kinds of foodstuffs and other products were coming to be controlled by the Big Five, and even more paramount, that these same players were increasingly operating abroad to the detriment of other nations and of America's reputation in the world. You'll see where I'm going with this here in a minute. Outlining the Big Five also controlled or owned more than half of the export meat production of Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay, and had large investments in many other countries, including Australia, the 1919 investigators warned 100 years ago. The small dominant group of American meat packers, now international in their activities while retaining American identity, blame which now attaches to them for their practices abroad as well as at home inevitably will attach to our country if this practice continues. The members of President Wilson's FTC 1919 investigation believe that, quotes, if the fundamental and underlying evil are rooted out, the whole structure of conspiracy, control, monopoly, and restraint of trade must fail. Again, set 100 years ago. On August 6, 1919, the U.S. Department of Justice announced there would be a series of lawsuits filed in response to the FTC's investigative report on antitrust violations by the Big Five meat packers. The next day, the New York Times reported, quote, agents of the packers have been in Washington for several days. The author went on to say, they have now remained there ever since, lining the pockets of lobbyists and the coffers of candidates. So today, as ever, the question is not whether the administration has the ability or authority to bust up the meat monopoly, but whether it has the guts, political will, and independence to do the job. So that's where I wanted to kick off from that letter that I found from the Huffington Post 10 years ago. First thing I want to touch on today is country of origin labeling. What a travesty that we allowed that to happen, to have mandatory cool removed and taken away from the rights of the American producers, specifically the American cow-calf producer. It's one of the things I thought from a marketing standpoint that actually cost producers zero to enact and derived a great benefit from it. So that's why I was so disgusted when our National Cattlemen's Group, obviously from the direction I had to be, from those who were giving them their orders, went up and went out and actively lobbied to get it removed. Crazy. And I think most of our independent cow-calf people and probably independent feeders around this area believe that and hold that belief. So much to the dismay of all of us to watch our own national organizations to go lobby it was crazy. And to be honest about it, call Congress people and ask them about it and ask them why most of them voted to repeal cool. They're going to tell you because the National Cattlemen's Groups told them to do it. And now part of what we suffer through today is that direct result of that. It gives the packers an ability to source product, a foreign product, raised in conditions with less restrictions, less federal guidance, less overall quality standards, and sell them in our marketplace for the exact same price as produced, born, bred, raised, fed, and processed in the United States. Today, even more outlandish is the fact that they can actually bring that foreign product in and repackage it and label it as made in the USA. I think that this is an immediate change that should happen. And when I say immediate, I mean immediate. Folks, and then we're going to hear back about this threat of the World Trade Organization from the with their Mexico-Canada trade agreement. First of all, remember, it's a threat. It's a threat of a retaliatory tariff. Second of all, remember, it's our president today that has actually looked at tariffs and basically said, bring them on. So for all of those people that have supported this president, why would you be scared of a tariff now? And as far as our industry, that's a proposed, and again, I'm going to say proposed, a proposed $1 to $2 billion tariff. Why don't you see what we've lost since mandatory cool was dropped? It's that $1 to $2 billion threat is a drop in the bucket. The second thing, in this particular case, I'm not afraid of the fight. If they want to fight and let them fight. Let the countries that think it is an unfair practice that we label our own beef and their beef has to be labeled, take the fight. Bring it on. My gosh, not a bit bothered by it. Folks, that is one of the absolute changes that needs to be made and needs to be made fundamentally fast, and fast in like tomorrow. That's also a statement out to the people when we're in somewhat of a food. Everybody's mind is on food. They figured out through this whole thing that you can't get along without it. You're also going to care about more where it comes from, especially when we're talking about viruses originating from foreign sources, et cetera, et cetera. Food security, it's paramount. Food availability, food security is paramount to the national security. So this is an easy sell. This is an easy one that's going to go. That's going to get changed. Folks, I'm going to tell you, so we're talking about going to battle. I'm talking about going to war on this issue. I think it's simply put, just ask the people that you think may have some voice in this. Just ask them what side of the fence they want to stand on. You'll figure out if they're in your corner or if you're against it. And I think this is one of those paramount times that you just say, okay, I want you on my side. If you're not on my side, I'll ask you that you stay out of the way. But if you don't want to stay out of the way, then we're going to run you over. And that's what we have to do. That alone will start the process of fundamental change back in our industry, put more power back in the hands of the producers, take it away from the packers, whose job, let's not forget their job through this whole thing, whether we like it or not, their job is to buy these cattle as cheap as they can. Our job is to sell them at the best and the highest level that we know how. This is just one small tool to level that playing field. That's going to be my comments about the country of origin labeling. I'll come back tomorrow with our market reports from the auction and talk in length about where we're at today in our competition and where we need to be at and price discovery mechanism and those things. So again, this is the time we're going to bring this back. It needs to happen. You demand it. When you get a chance to talk to your Congress people, you ask them what side they're on. And when they go to tell you that, well, our cattlemen's organization told us to vote against it, which I've directly heard that from those candidates, it's time then to say that maybe they don't speak for all the cattle men and cattle women in this country. This is John SCHABEN with the Dunlap Livestock Auction. Thank you.